Hello everyone. This is the walkthrough video of worksheet 2, problem 1.2. The problem is which of these graphs have Euclidean tour? So before we start, we need to figure out some concept. What is a tour? So a tour is a kind of walk that have start equals to the end. For example, it would be some of like this random walk, but at last it go back to where it starts. So this is tour. And what is Euclidean? Euclidean is that you visit every edge. So you visit every edge exactly once. For example, if we have like, let's say 3 dots and they form a triangle, then Euclidean tour will look like this. In this case, you start equals to the end, which is this vertex, and also you visit every edge exactly once. Okay, after we figure out the concepts, let's now go through each problem. Part A, we have K5. So if you see the symbol K, then it represents a connected graph. So for K5, you have 5 vertices, and a connected graph is a graph that every vertex is connected to all of the other vertices. For example, in this graph, it will form something like a star. So in this graph, if you look at every vertex, for example, this one, it is connected to all of the other. You see there are 4 edges out of it. Okay, so for Euclidean tour, a really important property of Euclidean tour is that in a graph which have Euclidean tour, the degree of every vertex is even. So you can think of why it is the case. So for every vertex, for example, the vertex A, if there's an edge going into it, then there have to be an edge go outside of it, right? Because you want to start equals to the end. So in this case, like, so if you go to a vertex, you cannot just stop there because you want to start equals to the end. So you have to go all the way to your starting point. And for the starting point, at the start, you have an edge pointing outside of it, and at the end, it points back. So for every vertex, its degree has to be even. So let's go back to K5. Does this satisfy the property? Yes, because for every vertex, it's connected to all of the other vertices. So for every vertex, the degree will be 4. So in this case, we have yes. And then let's go to part B, which is K6. For K6, also every vertex is connected to all of the other vertices. So the degree of every vertices, let's say V, will be equals to 5. And this is the odd number. So the answer is no. And then for the part C, we have K7. The idea is quite similar. So for K7, every vertex is to connect it to the 6 other vertices. So the degree of every vertex will be 6. And we have yes, because 6 is an even number. And then let's talk about a different kind of graph, which is the hypercube. So for a three-dimensional hypercube, you probably see that before. It is just a cubit. It will be something that looks like this. You may notice that there's actually like symmetry inside a hypercube. That because if you think of a cubit, then like whatever you flip it, the shape is always fixed. So for three-dimensional hypercube and for hypercube in general, you also have this symmetry. So for every vertex, if we want to find the degree of the vertex, it will be 3. Because, for example, if you look at this vertex, then there are 3 edges connected to it. So the degree of it is equals to 3. And we have, because 3 is an odd number, So there does not exist a Euclidean tour. So our answer is no. Finally, for part E, we have a four-dimensional hypercube. So I feel like what's important is to understand how to construct a hypercube instead of just memorize what the hypercube look like. So how to construct a hypercube? First of all, you have so the construction step is actually quite similar to the mathematical induction. First, we have a hypercube that is one dimensional lower. For example, if you want to construct a four-dimensional, you need to have a three-dimensional at first. Then you copy the two of the three-dimensional and connect each corresponding vertices. For example, for this vertex, it's connected to this one, this is connected to this one, and and then you just connect all of the following vertices. This may looks a little messy, yeah, but if you connect all of them, yeah, right now you have a four-dimensional hypercube. But like for this problem, you don't actually need to write down the four-dimensional hypercube, because what we matter is not what the hypercube looks like, but what is the degree of each vertex. Because if you look at each vertex, before, let's say for this one, in the three-dimensional, it's connected to three other vertices, but in four-dimensional, because it's connected to the copy of it, so there's one more edge. So you know the degree of, let's say, V4, which is a vertices in the four-dimensional, is equals to the degree of V3 plus 1. Because the only edge added to a vertex is the edge connected to its copy. So we don't actually need this construction, but this construction is just to let you know how to construct a high-dimensional hypercube. So we have the degree of the vertex in four-dimensional hypercube is equals to 4. And this is true for all of the vertices because there's also symmetry in hypercube. Because 4 is an even number, so we have yes. There exists Euclidean tour in four-dimensional hypercube. So that's it for the walkthrough of problem 1.2.